Hello and a very warm welcome to yet another interesting edition of the program CAC Weekly, a weekly program that keeps you abreast on the activities and the achievements of the Corporate Affairs Commission. I am Amina Jibril. Coming up, CAC holds Customers Forum in the ancient commercial city of Kano. And Registrar General restates commitment to making CAC staff offices operate at par with the head office. Plus, company law specialist harps on the need for companies to establish effective audit system. Stay tuned. We will be right back after this break. And welcome back. We begin with our reports from the ancient city of Kano. Now, many schools of thought, particularly Bright Edge, described customer forums as fantastic ways to build in the bond between customers and brands. Aside establishing connections between the customers and to companies, such forums excellently inspire loyalty in customers. Now, customer forums also provide for ample opportunities to getting to know customers and what matters to them. By listening to and participating in conversations, service agencies can gain far greater insight into their customer base, improve the customer experience, amongst other benefits. It is against this backdrop that the Corporate Affairs Commission on Thursday, 1st July 2021, held the Customers Forum in the ancient city of Kano. Declaring the forum open, the Registrar General of the Corporate Affairs Commission, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, challenged stakeholders to be more committed and responsive while dealing with the Commission. The Registrar General, who used the forum to highlight some of the key reforms initiated by the Commission in accordance with the provisions of CAMA 2020, further called on the participants to keep themselves abreast with the guidelines on registrations before submitting their applications. He stressed that the CAC was working round the clock to timeously fix glitches whenever they get identified and advised customers to avoid the usage of what he called vague and misleading names while attempting to register companies with the CAC. He used the forum to reiterate his commitment to continue to work for the progress of the Commission and the nation in general. In a goodwill message, the Senior Special Assistant in Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises, MSMEs, Mukhtar Modi Baba, applauded the federal government's free registration of 8,406 business names in Kano. Mukhtar Modi Baba expressed satisfaction with CAC's support towards ensuring success of the exercise and therefore pledged to collaborate more with it in a bid to formalize higher number of informal businesses. In a similar vein, Femi Olorunyomi of the Nigerian Law School, Kano, and Aminu Sani Gadanya, Chairman, Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, Kano, commended the CAC for hosting the forum and urged it to sustain the tempo. Other goodwill messages came from Ali Madugu of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Umar of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Kano branch, and the representative of the Kano Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Hassan Tukuryaro, amongst others. High points of the event was an interactive session and a start-to-finish registration undertaken by a customer. We still stay in Kano for our next report. In its continued bid to improving the Commission's services, particularly to ensuring that state offices operate at par with the head office, the Registrar General and CEO of the Corporate Affairs Commission, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, paid a walk-in visit to Kano office. The visit was coming barely a day after the CAC successfully hosted a customers forum for its stakeholders in the ancient city of Kano. Addressing staff shortly after inspecting facilities at the office, the Registrar General, who was accompanied by some executive staff, applauded the efforts of Kano office towards ensuring the success of the just concluded customers forum. The Registrar General noted that the feedback received at the event would go a long way in enhancing the services of the Commission. Now, during the visit, Alhaji Garba Abubakar held a separate meeting with approving officers with a view to identifying their challenges and resolving them head-on. The head of Kano office, Isa Umaru, who is a deputy director, had earlier, while welcoming the Registrar General, expressed appreciation for the tremendous amount of support he said he had received from the head office. And out from Kano, we move on to its next-door neighbor, Jigawa State, where the CAC participated at the 28th edition of the National Small and Medium Enterprises SMEs Clinic. The SMEs Clinic, which was flagged off by His Excellency Vice President Yemi Oshibajo, is a collaborative effort between the federal and state governments to, amongst others, minimize delays in the setting up and formalizing small businesses. Vice President Oshimbajo commended Governor Muhammadu Badaru Abubakar of Jigawa State for prioritizing the growth and development of MSMEs in his state and enjoined others to emulate the good example. In a related development, the Registrar General and CEO of the Corporate Affairs Commission, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, joined millions of people around the globe to celebrate this year's United Nations World MSME Day. Now, to commemorate the day in Nigeria, the 4th National MSME Awards and the first MSME Week was held at the Banquet Hall, State House, Abuja. Now, to support the event, the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, and the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, jointly sponsored the Award of Excellence in Technology Innovation, which was clinched by Macy's Easy Blob, Nigeria. The award was jointly presented by the Registrar General of the CAC, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, who was represented by Director Customer Service Gertrude Akalunu and the DG NITDA Kashifu Inwa Abdullahi. And now moving on to CAMA 2020, alias the Game Changer. In continuation of our weekly focus on CAMA 2020 and some of the Commission's reform initiatives, today we take a look at the need for companies to establish effective audit system. Tolulokpe Adiola Shonaike, the Assistant Director, Registry Department, gives us insight into the concept of appointment of auditors in CAMA 2020. Do enjoy watching.
Good to have you again on the program.
Thank you very much, Madina.
Okay. Today we're looking at Audit and Auditors under the Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020. But before we go into all those details, just how important is the auditor or audit to a company or to an organization?
Okay, the importance of audit to a company can be viewed from two sides. The first is an internal function, in which case we're talking about the internal audit, and the other side will be to look at it from as an external function, that is an independent auditor. Now, as an internal function, right, what audit does is to ensure the establishment of an effective function, right, that will provide assurances to the board of the company. Don't forget that the board is responsible for the day-to-day management of the company. Now, the board needs to be assured on how effective the governance, the risk management, and the internal control systems are. And this is a function of audit, internal audit. Now, on the external side, the internal side assures the boards, right? Now, the external function of audit is that it assures stakeholders, shareholders, and people who are interested in the company that the financial statements are reliable. You know, and external audit gives an independent opinion of the fair view of the balance sheet and the financial statements. Right, and they also assure stakeholders, shareholders, and all others who are interested that these financial statements that you are looking at are reliable. So it's important that a company should ensure audit.
Okay, all right. Under CAMA 2020, Section 401 and 402 did spell out requirements for audits. So talk us through those requirements.
Now, an audit is an annual thing. Right, and then the only exceptions for audit is there are two companies that have since incorporation not carried out any business at all. They're exempted from the requirements of audit under the Act.
But there's nothing to audit in the first
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there are small companies are also exempted from the requirements of audit.
So now let's go to the appointment of auditors under CAMA 2020.
Right.
Who is responsible
for the appointment of auditors?
The appointment of auditors.
Yes. Ordinarily, the powers to appoint an auditor resides in the company, when we say company, that is members at general meeting. Now, they have the powers to appoint auditors. And this is a yearly thing. At every AGM, the law says, Section 4.1, that auditors must be appointed. So what that tells you is that the tenure of auditors is just 1 year, it's annual, except renewed. Okay. But in certain circumstances, directors can appoint. Right. For instance, the first appointment of auditors, the directors can do that anytime before the company commences business. Right. But where the directors fail to do that, the company, any member can requisition a meeting for that purpose. And at that meeting, an auditor will be appointed for the company. Now, where an auditor is appointed by the directors, the company may reject that person at a meeting or confirm his appointment. Now, subsequent appointments are done at every annual general meeting. But where the company fails to appoint an auditor, once there is that gap, because once you fail to appoint an auditor, what happens is that there is a vacancy. Now, the directors are empowered in that instance to go ahead and appoint an auditor. But where this happens, the directors must notify the commission within 7 days of the annual general meeting that the meeting failed to appoint an auditor, and so we are appointing the auditor.
Okay. All right. Still, CAMA 2020 did spell out under Section 404. They spelled out people who are disqualified to be auditors. So who are these people? Okay.
Section 403 really spells out the disqualification. And by the time we go through them, you understand why that is so. Because if you are going to...
Sorry, it's 403. Not 404. I think I'm jumping the gun.
Yes. So now, let's just run quickly through the list of those that are disqualified. Under CAMA 1990, there were 3 classes of people that were disqualified, but that list has been expanded by CAMA 2020. Now, under CAMA 1990, if you are an officer or servant of the company, you cannot be an auditor because you'll be conflicted.
Oh, okay.
Right? Now, for the purpose of determining who an officer is...
People say you're covering up.
Now, for the purpose of determining who an officer is, an auditor, an external auditor is considered an officer of the company for this purpose. And so if you are an officer of an auditor to the company or a partner in that audit firm, then you cannot be appointed an auditor. If you are a partner or a person in the employment, right, of an officer or servant of the company, you can also not be appointed an external auditor. If you're a body corporate, you cannot be appointed. What that means is that it's only individuals, persons, natural persons, that can be appointed auditors of a company. Then that was under 1990. Now, added to that, you now have new classes of people. Anybody who owes the company
cannot be
more than 500,000 naira. Or you owe a company that is related to that company, perhaps a subsidiary of the company or a holding company of that company. You know, more than that amount, you cannot be appointed an auditor, because it is viewed that the reasons why these persons are disqualified is that their independence cannot be assured. And an external auditor must be independent, because what is given is an independent opinion. It is to protect the integrity of financial statements and opinions that will be given on them. People look to external audit and their opinions, particularly when they are not qualified, for the purpose of taking decisions on investments, of rating the company. So if you are an independent auditor, then be independent in all senses. You can't be a consultant to the company, or an employee of a consultant to the company, or be related to a consultant to the company.
So there must not be any form
there cannot be any form of
association.
Right. And the relation, there must be some, it's like you say, arm's length relationship. We must be sure that there is sufficient dissociation such that there will not be room for conflicts to arise. We must be able to trust your judgment. If my wife is giving an opinion on me for others to make a decision on, it will be questionable. That you hear, we for protect, it will be the husband now. So it's something like that. Yes. So there must not be any interest linked or supposed for you to be appointed an auditor.
Okay. So now let's go to the reports of the auditors.
Right.
That's the section 404, subsection 1. You know, people will say the fear of the auditor is the beginning of
wisdom.
Of wisdom, yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, that is in many aspects. I mean, audits in that sense is used loosely. You know, anybody who comes to examine your actions, you know, and your schedules and functions may be described as an auditor. So what we're talking about here is financial auditor, right? So what does the auditor's report help to achieve? The auditor's report, and the function of that auditor is one, he must examine the accounts of the company annually for that year, for that financial year. He must examine it, and then he must audit the statements, financial statements of the company that is going to be laid before the company at general meeting. And he must make a report thereon. So you look at the accounts, you look at the financial statements, you make a report on it. And then you must also, in the case of a public company, now this for private companies, this auditor's report goes straight to the members at general meeting. Now, in the case of a public companies, listed or not, are obligated to have what you call audit committee.
Yes, that's the one I'm going to.
Yes. Yeah. So now, in the case of public companies, the auditor's report does not go straight to the annual general meeting. It goes first to the auditors, to the audit committee. It is the audit committee that will look at it and then make recommendations to the general.
Let's go to the composition.
Now, the composition of this audit committee, under the 1990 Act, it was an equal number of representatives of the directors and representatives of members of the company. But under CAMA 2020, it is 3 members to represent shareholders and 2 directors to represent the directors. Right? Now, that is the new
3 to 2.
3 to 2. That is the composition now. What the law has done is to go ahead and prescribe qualifications for members of the audit committee. The first is that every member must be financially literate. So that means you must have some financial literacy. You must understand figures, right? And accounting, basics. You must be able to interpret figures, financial figures, when you see them. You must understand what is turnover. You must understand what is net assets. You must understand what is taxable income, and if you know general knowledge of these things, right? So you must be financially literate. Beyond that, one of your members, one of your 5, must be a member of an accounting professional body, regulating body, recognized by law, created by law. By that, will mean, for instance, in Nigeria here, that you must be a member of either ICANN or ANAN, or any other statutorily recognized regulatory body for the profession of accounting, right? You know, financial papers, figures, and all of that, when you see them, they can be very, very discouraging and very complicated. So for most of the shareholders and people that invest, for you, for instance, I'm sure when they put the financial statement of where you buy your shares are presently themselves, they are just like, all you want to look at is, what is total figure? Is it minus or plus? So if it's not in bracket, you know it's not a deficit. You know that when there's no bracket, then that's a plus, a credit. That's all you are interested in. But how that came about, you don't know. Now, what you see finally may not necessarily mean that you get something at the end of the day. There are other parameters that will determine all of that. So you need people who can actually interpret these statements.
Section 415 talks about liability of auditors for negligence. At what point does an auditor, does he display negligence?
You don't forget again that, and that's one reason why the law says body corporates cannot be nominated or appointed external auditors. Now, the reason for that is because the liability should be strict. If you appoint a company, which is a body corporate, you know, as your auditor, if I am an employee of that body corporate, that company, if I'm negligent in performing my duties, and the company suffers some form of loss, right? You won't come against me except you can determine fraud. You will be suing the company that I work for. Now, that is not strict enough for a function that people need to rely on to make financial judgments, to alter their positions detrimentally. And that is why an auditor is seen as owing fiduciary duties to a company. That fiduciary duty of care, that fiduciary duty of diligence, that fiduciary duty of skill that is reasonable to the circumstance. So an auditor must be careful going about his work.
Okay.
He must be diligent. That means he must apply the utmost best and utmost good faith and effort to achieve his results.
Okay.
And he must exercise the skill that is ordinarily expected of his person as an auditor. An auditor is not just anybody. You are trained in this thing, right? So you are expected to possess and exhibit some skills.
Okay.
It is not enough for you to come and tell me
that you are qualified or you know the job. You have to display. You have to prove it.
Yes, you have to, because as an auditor, you are a professional. So you must exhibit that skill that a professional ordinarily will exhibit, that would distinguish him from persons like me, who are not auditors, who are not trained in audit, and so who are not professionals in that field.
Okay.
Now,
okay, go ahead.
Yes. Now, if a company suffers any loss or detriment, right, by reason of you not being diligent, not being careful, not exercising the requisite skills, then you owe the company to the extent of that damage. The company can actually sue you for damages.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it means when you hear companies go into insolvency or become insolvent, it means the auditors contribute likely to that.
Not in all cases.
Okay.
But quite a number of insolvency issues, right, could have been, there would have been some triggers, right, that the auditor could have noticed.
But most times there's a cover-up.
Yes, there's
the auditors are the ones who do the cover-up. So you just see...
Again, there is a collusion with the board, right? And don't report this, okay, but just would address it and all of that. That happened. I mean, that was the case, if you remember then, some years back, the case of Enron. There were signs over years that this thing was going to happen. And yet, a global brand in auditing somehow failed to report it. Now Enron went under, but that also marked the end of that global brand.
Like you
I won't mention names, but I mean, since that time, that global brand never practiced audit again.
Because like you said, if due diligence was followed and these annual general meetings take place and these papers were presented and people could see the performance. So they would have noticed the trigger.
Yes, and don't also forget that you only audit what you see.
Oh, okay.
The auditor is not involved in the day-to-day running of the company.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You audit what you see. But for a diligent auditor, in most cases, there will be something.
Okay.
There will be something
that is not adding up.
Yes, that is not adding up. That something is wrong here. And that is why the companies are also obligated to provide the auditor with every assistance he needs. Ordinarily, since you carry on business all around, you have branches, the auditor should ordinarily is expected to visit all the branches and look at their financial records.
Okay.
But where that is not possible, as a company, you are obligated to make sure all the accounting records he needs from the branches he gets them. And that is part of what the audit committee will determine. So be sure that did you get all these things? The branches you could not visit, did you get them?
Before he proceeds.
Yes. I mean, the financial controls, are they adequate to our operations? I mean, do you have everything you need to have to make a determination and give an opinion that what is presented as financial statements represent a true and fair view of our financial state? So, yes, for most insolvency issues matters that eventually end up a problem for the company. If you had good internal risk management system, internal controls in place. Yes, most of them, you would have seen some red flags that would have warned you that something is wrong, something is not adding up here.
Okay. All right. I do know that we can go on and on and on when it comes to financial issues, but I'm afraid we just have to leave it here. Mr. Tolulokwe Adeola Sonaike, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Medina. It's good to always be here.
And that does it for this week's edition of the program CAC Weekly. We do hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, for comments and inquiries, please take advantage of our social media handles and our helplines. On Instagram and Facebook, it's Corporate Affairs Commission. Our email is at cservice@cac.gov.ng. You could visit our website on www.cac.gov.ng. And you could reach us via our helplines on the numbers 081-822-99016 or 081-822-98971, 090-874-01598 or 090-874-01599 and 090-874-01600. Do join us next week for another interesting edition of the program. Same time, same station. From me, Amina Jibril, and the whole team here, it is bye for now.